he said, and we'll get going. So up until now, the past 2 weeks, we were looking at the story of Bil'am and the donkey and the angel, all that's going on there. And God finishes up that story. He says, maybe if you don't want me to go, I won't go. He says to God and the angel says, no, you're going to go. But we're going to make sure only that which I will say to you, that's what you're going to say. Let's make it clear. There's no riffing here. And you say exactly what I tell you to say. So he goes. He goes with the dignitaries of Balak. Vayishma Balak ki ba Bil'am. Let's pick it right here, verse 36. Lamed vav. Vayishma Balak ki ba Bil'am. Balak heard that he was a coming. Vayetzei likrato al Ir Moab, and he went out to greet him to the Ir Moab, which means, what does that mean, Ir Moab?
Their main city.
Yeah, Rashi says, Ir Moab, the city it's to his metropolis, the most important city he had. See what these Israelites wish to exterminate. That's a very big word. La'akor means to uproot. I don't know why they went with exterminate in the translation. Okay, so Rashi says, Ir hachashuva shelo. This is the most important city. And so it is named for the whole nation is named. The city is named for the whole nation. It's their metropolis. So he wants them to see exactly what's being threatened by these Israelites, which we keep on pointing out. The Israelites have zero intention of threatening. The Israelites are not interested at this point in the border of Moab at Arnon. Right? That's just not. That's Jordan into Syria, Golan-ish, okay? And that's not where our eyes are. Where are we looking? If we're in the fields of Moab, right in the Jordan Valley already, we're only looking to go west. We're not interested in up there, but again, the panic is there, and that's what he's afraid of, and so that's where he meets him. Didn't I send send people to call you? Lama lo halachta? Like, why didn't you come? Why did you not come after to me? Right. Alex, I'm sorry. Why didn't you why didn't you follow up? You can unmute yourself now, Alex, if you want. So is it really true that I can't honor you? His reading was, as might have been an accurate read. The reason why Bil'am had said no to the first round was, as he read it, he wants more cover, right? And even though Bil'am couldn't go because God didn't go, but he didn't convey it. He just said, I can't go, and so Balak's read was that he couldn't honor him. So now he brings it up to him, and Bil'am does not take the bait. Doesn't take the bait. He doesn't enter into a conversation about it. Bil'am el Balak, hine bati elecha. I read this as, hey, I'm here. Ata, now hayachol uchal daber me'uma. Am I able in any way to utter a word? Hadavar asher yasim Elohim befi oto daber. That which God puts in my mouth, that's what I'm going to say. And is he fulfilling what God's instructions were? Bil'am? Finally, what? He's making it clear. I am constrained fully by God. So I know you hired me to come and curse the Israelites. You think I'm going to do that? In the end, I'm here only to do that which God says I'm allowed to do. So good luck, buddy, right? I showed up, I'm here, but know what I can and can't do. All right. Is Bil'am very, from here? Sounds from. What does he really want? we got to figure out. Would he still really want to accomplish the curse? That's we're going to be, reading as underlying or not underlying the story. Good. Okay. So, Vayelach Bil'am and Balak. It's still the same thing. He went with him right away. Vayevo Kiryat Chutzot, which Rashi reads in Kiryat Chutzot, the village of Chutzot, which she's reading as Shvakim. It's full of marketplaces. It's a bustling city. Anashim bataf v'chutzoteha. There are lots of children, men and children there. He's trying to appeal to his heart that you got to stop these dangerous Israelites. What do they want to destroy? Vayizbach Balak, and ignore the translation here because I don't think it's correct. Vayizbach Balak son and Balak slaughtered. But zevach means to lizboach, means technically to slaughter. Sometimes we do mean sacrifice, but we'll see whether we think that's true. He slaughtered bakar vatzon, oxen and sheep. By shalach leBalam, and he sent him over to Bil'am v'lasrim asherito. Wait a minute, I thought it was with him. He sent them off to Bil'am and the dignitaries that were with him. Firstly, what dignitaries are with Bil'am? Yeah, they're Balak's dignitaries. But Bil'am came only with two people, his two lads. He doesn't come with an entourage of his own. He journeys with the entourage that was sent to him. So apparently the entourage is all hanging around, and this is what he sends to him. Whether he's, let's imagine it's back at the hotel. And it was in the morning. In the morning, he brings him up there. We'll come back to this in a few moments. And Bil'am says to Balak, B'nei li bazeh shiva mizbachot, v'hachem li bazeh shiva parim v'shiva elim. Bil'am says to Balak, build me here 7 altars and prepare me here 7 bulls and 7 rams. Vayas Balak asher diber Bil'am, vayas Balak Bil'am parba al b'mizbeach. And Balak did what he said, and Balak and Bil'am offered up bull and ox on the altar. So clearly, what is number 2? What are these animals?
Korbanot? What do you mean?
They're korbanot. They are sacrifices. They are brought up by Ya'al. They are, presumably they are the offering, maybe an all burnt offering on the altar. That's what it is. There are mizbachot. There are altars here, and they're being brought up as an offering. Which means that if you come back to verse 40, what's pretty clear? What are these animals?
Sacrifices.
So or the translation, which I don't think is correct. And we'll just read it as slaughtered. What's missing from this discussion? An altar and an act of bringing it up on anything, right? This isn't a sacrificial moment. It doesn't seem to me. This is what?
Feast.
A feast. It's a feast. It's a nice way to I would say a very nice gesture. You remember when you went to hotels? You remember those places? Yeah, 2 years ago, before that. So think about what it was like to go to a nice hotel. A nice hotel, if you ever did that, right? So if you go to a hotel which was not especially nice, so they would have a little mini bar, and they would have on the counter 2 things of fancy wine, water, excuse me. And what do you should do about that water bottle?
Don't touch it.
Don't touch it. That Fiji water, the carbon footprint for that Fiji water is like crazy enormous. they're schlepping water from Fiji for you to, right? And as soon as you open the bottle, they say, oh, you're $20 a bottle of this stupid. So, okay, so that's that hotel. But let's say, I'll give you an example. You remember, I went last May with this first group of rabbis who went an emergency trip to Israel during the war that transpired, and so we were like the first group that got into Israel since COVID. Okay, since they closed things out for foreigners at that point in time, and so UJA Federation brought us, and they had they put us up in the Oriental Hotel, which is a very lovely hotel, which apparently gave them a nice deal for us to be able to stay there. And I go into my hotel room, and on the table are first lovely Israeli fruits, the finest of the Israeli fruits, and then whatever were little cookies and lovely treats that they made for us. And then there was a little note. It was really the handwritten note to me, to dear Rabbi Martyr. I want to thank you so much for your support for our people, whatever it was, and for coming here at this difficult time for us. Thank you for being here. So it wasn't a lot, but it was a lovely gesture. And it was very sweet. I mean, I would say that, the next time I go to Israel, I'm staying at the Orient Hotel, if only I could afford it. So since I can't afford it, I'm going next week. I don't think I'm staying at the Orient Hotel. But it was a lovely act on their part. And that's what you do. So you read the text, your first reading is, what a nice thing he's decided, right? He takes them around a little journey, and he sends to back to the hotel room, a whole little barbecue, what do you call that?
Charcuterie.
Yeah, right. But so that's usually the dried
or churrasca, which is the Brazilian version.
Okay, so that's what he said.
Well, she sent churrasca, not charcuterie.
Churrasca. So how nice of Bil'am, right? That's what we'll say. So let's take a look at how Chazal read this and how Bil'am reads this in the Chazal's reading of it. Let's see. Oops.
So he's trying to bribe him, or he's trying to show him that he actually has the money to, he has the resources.
So the first version is simply a nice thing. Thank you for being here, Balak. You know how scared Bil'am, you know how scared we are. Shkoyach, thank you for coming. That's how I might read the text, which is just a nice gesture and end there. So let's take a look firstly. And that's how Sephorno, let's read the Sephorno, right? Dan, you want to read the Sephorno? Vayishlach Bil'am.
Vayishlach Bil'am, as a gift offering in addition to his regular meal in order to satisfy Bilham's quest for honor.
Right, so it's a little bit negative about Bil'am. I know I got to make you feel whatever, so I'm going to send you this very, very nice dessert of barbecue dessert. Okay, so let's read the Tanchuma, and it gets right to it, and it's not a nice thing to say, but let's see there. Go on, Dan. Then Balak sacrificed.
Then Balak sacrificed an ox and a sheep.
Bakar vatzon, which usually, in Bible translations,
Bible translation usually render ox and sheep as plurals, but the Midrash is interpreting them as singular. The righteous say little and do much.
The righteous say little and do much. But hold on a second. That, by the way, is a Mishnah Pirkei Avot, and more ma'at va'aseh harbeh. Don't be a big talker. Say little and be judged by how much you do, not by how much you talk about things. That's how the righteous are. Go on.
It is written of Abraham, let me bring a piece of bread that you may refresh your soul. But after
who did he say that to? Who did he say that to?
The angels.
The angels who show up, who say, no, we're leaving. And then he says, I just gave you a piece of bread. Just give you a piece of bread and then you can leave. Okay? Go on.
But after that, hurry up with 3 se'ah of fine meal. Then Avram ran onto the herd.
What happens in the rest of the story there? What does he feed them?
He cooks for them and
a whole big feast. He has everybody running to make a big feast for them. He says, stay here and have a little piece of bread and then you can go. And meanwhile, he's running around tummeling quickly to provide them a whole beautiful feast. Okay. Anybody ever go? I forgot what it's called now. Maybe with your kids, did you go to just outside? Oh yeah, I remember where we are, right outside Yerushalayim, and you go to biblical ancient lands. I don't know what they call it. You show up and you park your car in the parking lot, and there is Eliezer, Abraham's servant, with a bunch of camels. None of you did this with your kids?
Yeah,
Biblical zoo?
No.
it's like Abraham's village or something.
It's an ancient. It's a great shtick. You're out there and near Ma'ale Adumim, and then so Eliezer takes you. You all go on your camels to Abraham's tent, and then Eliezer takes care of you. He makes a bunch of pita with you, and you have a little pita meal. Okay, so Avram doesn't show up, by the way. He never shows up. It's only Eliezer. But the hospitality factor. And so he really should have given us the whole shebang, but okay, it was fine with the bread. So Avraham said a little and gave a lot. On the other hand, but the wicked go on.
But the wicked say a lot and do not even do a little. Balak said, "For I will surely honor you greatly."
Last
And
chapter.
when Balaam came, he only sent him an ox and a sheep.
Yeah, you promise you're going to honor me greatly, and all you give is a little, barbecue. Mamzer, right? I'm sorry, pardon me, but that's how Bil'am feels in this midrash. Bil'am began. Dan, you're on. Bil'am began.
I'm sorry. Balaam began gnashing his teeth at him, for he was greedy. He said to himself, "Is this what he sent me? Tomorrow I will deliver a curse through his own property." As stated, then Balaam said unto Balak, "Build 7 altars for me here and make ready for me 7 bulls and 7 rams."
So what's the midrash picking up on?
The discrepancy between the ox and the sheep
Yeah.
slaughtering, and then the 7 sacrifices.
And the midrash here is arguing that Bil'am picks this number 7. Why? Just because he says, I don't know, I'm going to make him. He could easily have just offered 1 sacrifice in the next day when he was offering sacrifices, but he says, I'm going to make this guy bleed a little bit. This schnook, he's so cheap with me. He sent me a little nothing. I'm going to say we have to make altars, and 7 of them, and 7 animals. It is 3 times over. So he's just taking his animals and forcing him to give, and he'll do whatever he says. Balak can do whatever he says, and then that's how he gets back at him, a shtuch back at him for what he did. We'll come back to the numbers a little later. Okay, so according to the midrash, this story of the sending of the animals is not as we first read it, which is his way of feeding into Bilam's quest for honor by giving him by overdoing it. Rather, it's a sign of his cheapness. He says a lot, offers the world, and gives him close to nothing. But the Netziv reads a little differently. I didn't translate it here, so let me read it. Ba'asher Balak hitbonein b'hachreach shebalam yiteni noel Yisrael. Since Balak knew that he needed to have Bil'am cast his gaze on Israel to curse them. But he knows that he was warned by God not to do it. He's looking for ways to influence Bil'am to ignore God. How am I going to, what's the best way to get to somebody to have them reconsider their behavior? But the best way to get somebody is to wine and dine them a little bit. And so according to the Netziv, this is an attempt to wine and dine Bil'am so that he'll consider shifting from his very rigid statement. He said, I can only do what God says. I'm going to do what God says. So, come, let's have a lot to eat. And maybe then tomorrow he'll think differently. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about what the Torah described in the next verses. It said he has him go. That's how the parak ends, right? He has him go up there, and he saw from there Ktsei Ha'am, a portion of the people. So why was it important that, what people are we talking about?
Jewish people.
The Jewish people, right? He first brings him to the metropolis and to the marketplace so he can see all those sweet little innocent and the society that is bustling and happening. And then he brings him to see the Israelites, who, on the other hand, they're not going to look like these, menacing people with their with swords in their hands, but cast your gaze on these folks. I'm telling you that they are the evil ones. So I need you to look at them. I need you to look at them. So commentaries want to talk about why. What do you think before we do that? Why would it be important to have him go see the people when he wants them to curse them, right? And not just do it, let's say, in the king's palace.
Well, he probably wanted to get on the highest point where the power of Baal was strongest, according to the
Interesting. So
their view of the world.
yeah, so the text says that he brought him up to Bamot Baal, which Baal was the pagan, one of the main pagan worship gods. It involved some pretty heinous worship, including what? Familiar with?
Bestiality? No.
What was that?
Oh, no, I don't know. Bestiality, I was saying.
No, well, the disgusting stuff happens at the end of the parsha. We'll get there too. But it involved child sacrifice. Like child sacrifice was an element of Baal, and God had specifically made Baal worship one of his direct enemies, or the target of his anti-avodah zarah diatribe throughout the Torah, and where it was going to happen later on. Baal, right? So to have him go to Bamot Baal is an interesting place. We'll see in 1 second. We'll talk about the sacrifices there, but so it's a high point to see them. So why see them? What would the purpose of seeing them and not just saying the curse from the palace?
Maybe to soothe, to ease his concern about, since he had just been talked to by Hashem, or indirectly by Hashem, and so Balak is saying, here, see, you can see them. They're not nothing all that. They're actually not that intimidating, and you don't have to worry.
Don't be worried about what will happen, back at you, because
Consequences.
yeah, that's interesting though, because on the one hand, Balak is all petrified about this nation's ability to destroy them. So you can't. That'd be hard to have it both ways. I mean,
Right.
they look very peaceful, by the way.
Right.
But I think Balak wants to make him out to be some danger. It's a hidden danger. So I don't know. I'm not sure if I would go that way. But there's something about what it means to pronounce, to try to pronounce a blessing or a curse, which is enhanced and indeed might require fixing your gaze
Right.
on the other. And that's what we're going to take a look at, how a few commentaries do that. Let's take a look. Let's read the Sepharno first.
Just really quickly, Rabbi. So is the whole kind of like overall mega purpose of the passages to obviously to compare these inferior efforts to the power of Hashem, and overall what's behind the Israelites. So then my understanding is that basically we are giving a view into the sorcery or religion of the people who are there, who the Israelites will replace. And there's a moral battle going on, whereas Israel is moral at the end, and obviously he cannot curse Israel. And the reason why he cannot curse Israel because Israel is beyond approach. And then the entire process by which they go about doing it seems very corrupt and very, very inferior. Is that kind of like
Yeah, that is That's not in the weeds. That's trying to step fully back and say, what do we take away from this entire story? But right now we're going to look.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just.
That's
you know,
okay.
trying to
But
frame it.
that's good to keep in mind. The contrasts are meant to be there for us, ultimately to see. And that's good to keep. So let's read this first. Alex, you want to actually read it? Alex Aronoff? It would be like in first grade. Alex A.
Alex, hey, yeah. Which one is
Vayami Sham Kasei in order, right? He saw a portion of the people in
order to harm them, but focusing his evil eye on them. Compare kings to the fool. He turned around and cursed them in the name of the Lord. Prophet Elisha cursed the lads, but insulted him.
So he needed to turn around to pronounce the curse, to gaze at them and do so. Deuteronomy 31:4, go on.
As an example of a very verse is bestowing a blessing, Moshe looked at the people with a benevolent eye, and he blessed them.
So to give a good bracha, you need to sort of look at them and let there be something that's happening between you and that what you're seeing, and to give a good curse, you got to do that also. Let's see how Ramban plays it out. You can keep on going, Alex, if you don't mind. And it came to pass in the morning.
And it came past in the morning, and Balak took Balaam and brought him up to the Abamoth Baal. And he saw from there the utmost part of the people. Balak took him up to the high place from which he could see them, people of Israel, in order he could concentrate his curse upon them, and his mind would not separate itself from them, for it's one of the attributes of the soul's powers that attach itself at the time of seeing a certain object is known, from which the sages tell. Rabbi Yoshanan, that he said to his disciples, lift my eyelids for me because I want to see this scholar. They accordingly lifted his eyelids. He set his eyes upon him, and as a result, the person died.
So I don't know. I really should look at that reference, because it sounds like a very intriguing reference of Yochanan, who has certain powers of healing. We know about Rabbi Yochanan. So apparently, when he could fix his gaze on the other person, it would have deep impact. So he said, this is how the soul works. The soul connects and locks in, and then it can channel. And so that's what Balak is hoping for, right? That Bil'am will get up there and he will lock in on the Israelites with his gaze, and then he'll be able to like a laser, you get that deep curse going with them. That's why he brings him there, instead of just doing it in the conference room or in the palace, where it's not gonna be deep. Okay. Now, of course, it does happen. He's correct. He is correct that you lock your gaze, but what happens? The gaze channels what? Not the curses that Balak wants, but the blessings that God wants, right? So it's going to backfire on him. Okay.
But this was meant to be the moment of truth. Balak, that he brought him here. This is what he hired him for.
This is what he hired him for, right? We're going to be 3 rounds, and we're just getting ready for the first round. Okay. But yeah, this is what he brings him right away to get this done. We're gonna skip the Nitzif for now. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll skip it for now. Let's take a look at the animal numbers, why we have these 7 sacrifices. So we saw one version in the Midrash, which says the 7 sacrifices are a way that Bil'am pretty much just tries to make Balak bleed some money as a stuck back at him for being cheap with him. Okay, but here we have some different reads. Let's see first the Bechor Shor. Alex F., you want to read for us the Bechor Shor and the Ramban?
7 altars in order multiplied the attempt at placating. Perhaps God would adjust and would desire that he curse them.
So according to the Bechor Shor, he chooses 7 because he's hoping that he'll accomplish what? By offering a multitude of sacrifices to God.
He'd change his mind, or
yeah,
support.
I can perhaps soften up God by doing this, to get God to relent on his stricture on me to only say blessings. Maybe if I butter up God, that'll work. Foolish. That's not how we view sacrifices, right? We don't view sacrifices as a way to butter up God. We view sacrifices away.
Especially sacrifice meat, not a good idea.
Second, what's that? Most of our sacrifices are meat.
Well, buttering up God with meat. I mean, it's not a
Oh,
good idea.
buttering. Yeah, good point. Good point. So, okay.
What were you going to say? Sorry. So most of our sacrifices are, what is the true purpose?
Are the ways in which we are there to say to God, at least the theology behind it is, it should have been me that's on the altar. But let's see, a sin offering, but let the animal be instead of me. It's about my neshama, throwing myself towards God. Or when I give a thanksgiving offering to God or a peace offering to God, it's all about my bond with God, not my attempt to maneuver God. To attempt to maneuver God through sacrifices would be a pagan approach to sacrificing. So this already introduced that concept here. And in fact, if you remember when one of the Haftarot before Tisha B'Av, where God says, when you heap onto me all these sacrifices, who asked all this from you when you come, trampling through my sanctuary, right? And the answer is, well, God told us to bring all those sacrifices. That's what, right? And the answer is not the way you're bringing them. And so this is not going to necessarily be, a well-received version, at least, if that's what he had in mind. Let's read the Ibn Ezra, which actually reads it very differently. You want to continue, Alex?
Seven altars. There are deep secrets which only a few can fathom. The number 7 occurs with regard to days, months, years. The 7 lambs offered for a burnt offering, the 7 sprinklings. God also told Job, take unto you 7 bullocks and 7 rams. When the complete is added to the complete, then a spirit of understanding is newly created. The intelligent will understand what I speak of.
So I
did
guess
not
we're not
understand
intelligent because it's hard to know what he's talking about, right? But when the Ramban, Ibn Ezra and others say Hamaskil Yavin, that actually is relates specifically to Sodot Amukim, to deep secrets, which are generally mystical secrets. It's just unusual. We don't, for the most part, we don't spend time. We don't usually expect to see the mystical ideas brought up in the Ibn Ezra. He seems, for the most part, to be, focusing on the pshat reading of text, the simple reading, and not getting to deep esoteric stuff, which is more the Ramban's angle amongst the commentaries. But here he says it. He says it, and that is that Bil'am chose 7 purposefully, because 7 is numerically what? What does it represent?
A week.
That's not what it represents. That's one way in which we have. Say it differently. In that 7 is the equivalent of a week. What does it mean to us?
Something we all assign the same value to, or something, or we all agree on?
Yeah. 7, 7 sabbatical years, right? 7 years and 7 times 7. 7 is completeness. It is the wholeness of a cycle.
Okay.
Right. So to choose 7 animals is somehow to say I'm going to hone in on sort of the into a zone of completeness, and if I can put complete on top of complete, somehow I'm going to be able to accomplish something within the heavens. So there's a thought behind this. It's not to make Balak lose some money, and it's not just to heap things on. It is it's specifically around a mystical component here that he thinks he's going to achieve. Let's take a look. On the other hand, or relatedly, the Midrash Rabbah, but it's going to the Midrash Rabbah is going to read it differently. Dan, you want to read it? Why 7 altars?
Why 7 altars? They correspond to 7 righteous ones from Adam to Moshe, who built 7 altars and had been accepted. Adam, Abel, Noah, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Moshe.
So those, you look in the Torah, those are all individuals who are noted to have offered sacrifices. Adam, I don't think the Torah describes Adam offering it, but we kind of know that. I don't think there's any direct depiction of Adam offering. I don't think so. But Hevel does. Okay, so those 7 people offered, And what does he want to say? Think about 7 great offerings, and here I am to somehow complement that. Go on.
Then Balaam said, "Why did you accept these? Was it not because of the service, the sacrifices which they performed before you, that you accepted them? Is it not more suitable for you to be served by 70 nations and not by merely one nation?"
So now, if that's the case, Bil'am then cloaks himself with what wrap? How does he present himself in this version to God? I am.
It's a continuation of this lineage.
So I'm looking at that lineage, and they all in the end, although they are individuals, Adam's an individual, Hevel's an individual, Noah's an individual, and then you get to the nation of Israel offering sacrifices. And good, very nice that you responded to those, but I come as the representative of
The rest.
the entire planet, all of humanity, the 70 nations. So a 7 number, right? We play with that, right? I am here representing humankind, opposite this this small nation Israel. What about all of humankind, God? Wow, we've now just ratcheted up the issue here from Balak being afraid of Israel, trampling them and doing some battle with them, to now being a great, the great conflict between Israel and the rest of the world. And Bil'am has been presented to us as the prophet that God has given to the Goyim. So he's ready to take up that calling right now. I am the prophet of all the Goyim. So God, what about us? Go on. The Holy Spirit answered him, which is like, this is like a little stuff. Okay, better
Better a dry morsel with tranquility. Better, in the words of Leviticus, a grain offering mixed with oil or dry than a house full of quarrelsome feasting. The words house and feasting can also mean temple and sacrifice, respectively, for you want to introduce strife between me and Israel.
I don't buy this argument you're making, Bil'am. You are claiming that you're here to represent all of humanity who want to serve me. And that's why you're here, and that's why you're making these offerings. How do I see what you're here to do? You are here to create strife. That's what you're here to do. I don't buy your claims of universalism and beauty of all of that, which is a good sell. It sounds very nice, but I don't think you're here to do that. And I'd rather stick with my people Israel without all of the cacophony of voices of quarreling that you represent or trying to bring into this. Wow. Who would have thought that when you read this verse about 7 things that brought up on the altar, that's where this would go? But that's how the Midrash reads it. Is there Ramban here also? Let's look a little bit here. Yeah, the Ramban here actually is a little more generous. Okay, let's take a look at the meaning of Balaam's words. So, Alex, you want to read this in the meaning of Balaam's words?
Sure. And the meaning of Balaam's words: I have prepared the 7 altars by the way of prayer, as if he were saying, I have prepared for you the perfect number of altars with the perfect number of sacrifices. May they come up with acceptance of your altar. This being
so it's I'm not trying to play games. I'm actually offering a prayer. Okay, this being similar. Go on.
Yeah, right. Which the scripture says, receive the memorial of all my meal offerings and accept the fat of my burnt offering. It also states, I will offer unto thee burnt offering of fatlings with the sweet smoke of rams. I'll offer bullocks with goats, salah and all souls in many places. And the meaning of the definitive article is the.
Oh no, we have to worry about that right now. So he believes that this was an earnest offering that he wanted to bring to Hashem, and in the end, he thinks that Bil'am was not interested in playing shtick and doing all types of maneuvers with enchantments. So I'll just see this outside. Here we have a few times over that Bil'am and Balak do it together. And then finally he says, get out of here, Balak. I don't want you, don't bring the sacrifices because you don't have the right kavanah. You have whatever manipulation kavanah that idolaters have here. And Bil'am did it himself. Now, whether that was still an attempt to have God ultimately come to, and join him in perhaps, creating a little bit of a curse, I don't know. But right now it's been presented as somehow an earnest offering on the part of Bil'am. All this sets us up for next week, where we're going to meet the words that come out of his mouth, and we're going to start interpreting 3 times over. This happens, we'll start interpreting and studying the events that happen now and the words that he will say. Let's just stop here.